You're tuned in to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
That's not to say that they don't respect the run game that you have, but you're talking about one quarterback leading the conference in passing so far this year. And remember, he didn't start the first game.
All right.
Still played a lot, though.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
I just don't want to disappoint you. As much as I disappoint you, I don't want to disappoint you in some things that you expect from me.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
Thanks very much for being with us this morning with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. Mike says this. I want to wish you all a very Merry Christmas and a prosperous New Year. Right back at you. Merry Christmas, prosperous New Year. We get a Merry Christmas, Yahooligans.
That seems to fit well.
Do you think you're a hooligan?
Yes.
Do you? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It's kind of the company that you keep, right?
Yeah.
I hang out with you and Clint. So.
Yeah, that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Merry Christmas and Happy Festivus from our friend Dan in Dallas. Okay. Finally got to meet Dan in Dallas.
He's a real guy.
He's a real guy, yeah.
Good dude.
He was a good dude. He was
very good dude.
Very good dude.
Mm-hmm. Merry Christmas to you, Dan.
This thoughts on Donovan Smith transferring to the U of H and Reggie Pearson going to Oklahoma. Yeah, I mean, I hate it. I mean, those guys got to do what they got to do in terms of, maybe trying to find some additional playing time. I get it for Donovan Smith going to Houston. For Reggie Pearson, I mean, is he going to Oklahoma? Is he going to get to play more there? Is it about the school? Is it about, do they have a great engineering school that he's going after, or what is it? What's the deal there?
Well, I don't know. I don't know Reggie personally, but I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that he lost his starting job and he's going into his last year and he wants to go somewhere where he thinks he'll be able to play more. Which is interesting because he's going to Oklahoma.
Right, that's my point.
That just doesn't seem normal.
Mm-hmm.
Again, his dad got on social media and was very complimentary of Coach McGuire and said, hey, if you're thinking about the Red Raiders, make it happen. It's a great place, all the above. So it seems like there was some sort of a mutual, separation there that they felt like, hey, you're not going to get the playing time here, or we feel like you'll fit better somewhere else. I don't know, but you would have liked to have had his depth in the secondary. It's not like the quarterback position where if you're not the starter, you're likely to not play. It's a different deal, and so you would have expected him still to get plenty of snaps, right?
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah, sure, I would have too.
So
and you're a play away too, from an injury or something like that.
But, he's, obviously made some big hits for you this year and had a couple picks and all that good stuff, but at the same time also struggled in coverage at times. So that clearly was not his strong suit. But, man, he was a big hitter and energy guy for you and all that kind of stuff and brought some good moments for Red Raider fans. So, I thought he handled his departure pretty well.
I thought Donovan Smith did as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Donovan's a little bit different. I tend to be a little bit more attached to the guys that have always been Red Raiders and not the transfers in. Reggie came from Wisconsin initially. I hate to see him go, but again, with both of these guys, I totally understand it. It's about playing time. It's not what I don't get in the transfer portal is when the guy's the starting quarterback somewhere and the offense is built around him and they're like, no, I'm going somewhere else.
Right.
Or the guy's their leading receiver. I see Georgia yesterday picks up the leading receiver for two different teams, yesterday. And it's that kind of stuff that's like, man, nobody just, hey, we're going to work through this together. Everybody's Kevin Durant, man. Let's go hop on board the championship team, Let's go hop on board. That's the kind of stuff that is just tough to take. I don't know how much NIL is involved in that. I don't know. That's a completely different deal. But I think both of these guys handled the departure well. You understand why they're leaving. It appears that Donovan was going to be the third-string quarterback. Clearly that coaching staff had kind of given up on his abilities as a quarterback, not as a running thread and a trick pony and all that kind of stuff. I mean, but they had kind of given up on him, so it makes sense that he left. I just hate that they're going to places that schools that we're going to have to face.
Yeah. Somebody says this, really, Chuck? NIL, dude. I wouldn't. I don't know what Reggie. I would assume that he's going to Oklahoma for other reasons other than NIL. I mean, if he had told me he was going to go to, a school that was not as steeped in football tradition or maybe depth or expectation, I might have bought in a little bit on that. But I do think maybe it's about fit. Maybe it's about playing style. Maybe it's about somebody brings up Coach Wells. He's associated with Oklahoma now as an analyst. I don't know. Maybe there's some familiarity there with another coach. I will admit it's surprising to me. Mm-hmm. I mean, I didn't. Again, if he's not starting or worried about snaps here at Texas Tech, you don't expect him to go to Oklahoma, right?
That doesn't make like Oklahoma's taking Texas Tech's defensive leftovers. I don't mean to disparage Reggie, but I mean that seems crazy talk. Right? I know our defense is improved, but
right.
And Oklahoma just signed the fourth best class in the country.
Yeah, I mean, and their coach is a defensive-minded coach, obviously, and Brett Venables. So somebody says this: I'm more upset about Pearson going to OU than I am of Smith going to Houston.
I'm not upset about either one of them. I wish Donovan would have not gone to Houston. Yeah. That's what really. I just hate that. I don't want to have to root against him. Mm-hmm. But I don't want Houston to do well. Yeah. No, I don't either. I don't want them to do well at all.
I'm more upset about just Houston going to the Big 12. This Merry Christmas to y'all from the farm north of Vernon.
Yeah. But the thing is, with a quarterback, it's hard to root for a team to do poorly. Like, I'll root for him, just not the team. Well, you can't really do that with a quarterback. Because if he's doing well, chances are the team's going to do well.
Sure.
Right?
Sure. Yeah. It kind of works that way a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, quarterback's kind of important.
Kind of works that way, yeah. All right, thoughts, comments, Yates Flooring Center chat line. Go to the Double T 97.3 mobile app. It's presented by Happy State Bank. Also, the Benchmark hotline is open at 806-771-0973. Lady Raiders won yesterday. We'll talk about that a little bit. It's a 21-point victory. But it is an ugly 21-point victory. They beat UC Riverside 59-38. The positive is you held a team to 38 points. The thing that you would have liked to do a little bit better is not be so giving. 22 turnovers made for kind of a messy game. Mm-hmm. So it was a game you probably should have won by 35 minimum based on kind of how UC Riverside looked.
Your morning blend of sports.
K-State is coming off a big win over Oklahoma. Of course, the Red Raiders off their 37-34 overtime win over number 22 Texas.
And humor.
Sure to tell them that. You suggested that. And, of course, that got a big laugh.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3. Catch the show live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Double T 97.3 FM or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
For this day in sports history, today is the 23rd day of December. Today and tomorrow, you got to get it done if you haven't gotten it done. And if you've got those one or two more things to do, then I suggest you do that today and take the stress off tomorrow. Here's Jeff McGuire with this day in sports history.
Starting in 1923, Yankees pitcher Carl Mays is sold to the Reds for $85,000.
Okay.
1951, the National Football League Championship took place at L.A. Memorial Coliseum. The Los Angeles Rams beat the Cleveland Browns 24-17. It's the first coast-to-coast televised NFL game.
How about that?
1972, which was 50 years ago today.
Mm-hmm. The Immaculate Reception by Franco Harris. It goes off Frenchie Fuqua into Harris's hands, and I can still see him running down the sideline, and Kurt Gowdy, caught by Franco. He just went crazy. He and Aldi Rogatis. I mean, it was the damnedest thing I'd ever seen at 12 years old. And I remember watching that game, and I hated the Raiders so much because they knocked the Chiefs out, and I was rooting for the Steelers only because the Steelers had never won anything and they were playing the Raiders, and I thought the game was, as soon as that, I remember the ball being in the air, and I see the ball get deflected, and I just was like, I was just downfalling because I knew that the game was over, because it was the Raiders were going to take over on downs. And then all of a sudden, you see Franco Harris just out of nowhere running. And the thing about it is that it took forever for that finally to be ruled a touchdown. They didn't have instant replay then, but there was a lot of conversation by the officials and going up to the booth and wherever they were watching it. But it took a long time before they finally ruled that it was a touchdown.
I would have totally blown that as a play-by-play man because I'm such a homer. Like, once the ball hit and was knocked away, I'd have dropped my head and not finished watching the play.
But would you have called them the dumbest team in sports?
Next thing you know, I'd be like, how did Franco get the ball? Right. What's he doing in the end zone?
I mean, it was as stunning an end to a game as I had ever seen, and maybe as I have ever seen, with the exception of what you saw with the Raiders last week, or maybe with the Vikings and the New Orleans Saints a couple of years ago, and just those ending plays where you just go, because that was it. I mean, it was over.
1997, Chicago Bulls coach Phil Jackson is the quickest coach to reach 500 wins in NBA history. It took him just 682 games. That's impressive.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
That's 108. That's 500 and 182 as a record.
Does he? This is a crazy question for you. Does he get the credit that he should get as a coach, or do people? Does that somewhat get dismissed because he had Jordan with the Bulls and Kobe and Shaq with the Lakers?
Well, I think that I think he was a mastermind of meshing egos.
Mm-hmm.
That I think that maybe does get overlooked. It's hard to completely ignore the fact that he had, the superstars of superstars.
Right.
Jordan and Pippen, Shaq and Kobe, pretty good combinations there, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but at the same time, you've seen plenty of teams put together a collection of superstars and, the talent just not make it work. Well, Phil was able to do that. So,
but
I give him
sometimes
credit for it.
I do too. Sometimes when you have all the talent in the world, sometimes it's hard to manage all the talent in the world too.
Mm-hmm.
You could say, well, God, I could have managed that team. Not just, put this guy at this. Okay. Well, keeping them all together and keeping them all, somewhat happy so that they can stay motivated and play together. I think over the test of time, like he did with both the Bulls and the Lakers, I think he's one of the greatest coaches in NBA history.
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that.
It is National Bake Day, and it's also National Puffernuss. Puffernice, I think is how it's said.
What is that?
It's the spiced little harder cookie that's got the powdered sugar on it that you see this time of year.
Okay.
If you see, they're like usually like a dome type shape that's covered in powdered sugar, and it's a darker cookie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a spiced cookie. They're all around right now.
Okay. I like soft cookies.
Happy birthday, Jim Harbaugh is 58. Susan Lucci is 76, and Brad Lidge is 45. And on this day in 2009, Richard Heaney, who carried out a hoax in which he told authorities his 6-year-old son Falcon had floated off in a runaway saucer-shaped helium balloon, is sentenced to 90 days in jail in Fort Collins, Colorado. His wife received a 20-day sentence for her part in the incident. The so-called Balloon Boy saga riveted viewers around the globe 2 months earlier on October 15th when it played out on live TV.
And it was all fake, right?
All fake. It was
crazy.
a publicity stunt getting ready for a reality TV show.
Jeez.
And that is this day in sports history.
All right, 6:52 this morning here on the morning drive. We get this. I like soft cookies too, Chuck. You said that with such philosophical seriousness. Okay. Good morning, guys and gals. Wishing everyone Merry Christmas and a happy and prosperous New Year. You as well. I watched that Immaculate Reception game. I was 12 years old. We're the same. We were the same, and we've survived so far. Glendale Jeff, he says, thank y'all so much for working today. Hey, I'm in Vernon too. It's 9. 9.
No, it's almost 7. I'm looking at it. It's 6:53 right now.
There you go. I caught that one. It is 8 here in Lubbock at the present time. All right. 6:53 this morning on Lubbock Sports Station Double T 97.3. We'll talk some football next. We'll get to the hoops as well. We'll have the Independence Bowl at 2 today. The Gasparilla Bowl at 5:30 today. Nothing but NFL tomorrow, and then Sunday as well as a full weekend of NFL action here on Double T 97.3 and on 100.7 The Score. It's nice to have you with us.
This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, getting you ready for today's sports day.
3 of the first 4 games have been at home, so at some point in time you're going to have to venture outside the 806, so that'll start this week.
While having a little fun along the way.
Always good if you can blame it on somebody else, right?
Yeah, sure.
Especially some media guy.
Sure. Right, some media guy.
Catch the show live weekday mornings from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3.
If you have something you'd like to overshare with us today, you certainly can. Not that we're the oversharers. Some of us are. Some of us are the oversharing show. Sometimes it is. But you certainly can. That was a nice little chuckle there.
I like you calling us the oversharing show.
I said some of us.
Yeah.
Not all of us. Not all of us. Some of us. Kind of, if the old shoe fits, wear it, right? Mm-hmm. Wear it. Mm-hmm. I went to the Christmas gathering last night, and met a Morning Drive listener that I wouldn't have suspected in the room that she was a Morning Drive listener, but that was nice. It was nice to meet.
That's cool.
So, one by one, conquering the world as best we can here this morning on the Morning Drive. And I've got another one tonight, so we'll see if I can gather up some more friends so we can make a gaggle of it.
It's good.
make a gaggle of it.
Keep spreading the word, Jeff.
Keep spreading the word. I'll do the best that I can to bear the banners far and wide for us, Jamie.
Well done.
Independence Bowl today at 2. Gasparilla Bowl today at 5:30. We'll have the bowls today on Double T 97.3. So look forward to that. The bowl game matchups today will feature Houston and Louisiana, Wake Forest and Missouri. On the Christmas Eve docket is just one bowl game, the East Post Hawaii Bowl, featuring San Diego State and Middle Tennessee. And then lots of bowl action next week, including the Red Raiders against Ole Miss. Do you have any expectations for next week?
I'm very interested to see what the Ole Miss, how much they want to be there factor is. Mm-hmm. I think the Red Raiders are excited to be there. I think, I don't think most expect them to be at 7-5. I surely didn't. And it just feels like they've got to be, excited going into this. Ole Miss was a top 10 team one point during the season, probably had much higher hopes than the Texas Bowl at that point. So, I don't know. I that's a big factor with me. I mean, you can just look at last night and see Baylor had no desire to be there in that game.
Right.
No desire.
Right.
And they probably had even less desire when it was the coldest bowl game in the history of bowl games. And it was played in Texas.
Right.
You know how cold it was?
That's crazy.
The trombones froze.
Wow.
It's disappointing.
For the Baylor band, there was a video they posted after the bowl game where they couldn't slide the slides off of their trombones anymore. They were frozen in place.
Like their offense looked the same way.
How do you put that back in the case, right?
Well, you got to warm it up first.
Yeah, right. Can't really take a blowtorch to them because it'd probably melt the brass, right?
I don't think there are many things that you can take a blowtorch to and expect that it's not going to be a different shape.
To survive, right?
Yeah.
To survive. Yeah, no, they did not look. I wonder, I guess it's because they finished 6-6 and just, la-di-da to the end of the year, but maybe it's got to be really disappointing for them to finish 6-7. For Airforce, really impressive to win 10 games. And one of the things they talked about on the broadcast last night is because these guys can't accept any money because they're on a commission, like the Naval and the Army for the Air Force guys, and they have to be in and out in 4 years. That moving forward, teams like Air Force, Army, Navy are gonna struggle to get to that 10-win level just because it's not a fair fight in terms against the teams that they're going up against.
It really never has been, but it's going to be even less fair.
Yeah. And so getting to 10 is just really, really impressive. I'm really curious about, and I don't know, I'm still curious about our quarterback situation because I'm just really wondering.
Our quarterback situation for next Wednesday or moving forward?
Moving forward.
Okay.
Moving forward.
Yeah.
I'm also curious. Like, okay, so let me just throw this out at you. What if
that's going to get answered for you really quick?
Like Thursday of next week, probably.
Probably so.
Yeah, certainly by the end of next week.
If he leaves, then you have your answer and you don't have to worry anymore.
Yeah, Baron Morton's starting quarterback.
There you go.
Mm-hmm. I wonder, because Coach McGuire, the last time that I was in the room where he was talking, and it was the Sunday where they accepted the bowl bid, and he said that Baron Morton was 100%, and that for the most part, and that Tyler Shuck would start. But I wonder if, let's just say Shuck goes out and struggles early. Like, let's just say for whatever reason, you get a couple 3-and-outs and he throws a interception and the offense is stagnant. Do you pull him and put in Baron Morton? How much rope do you give Tyler Shuck next week?
I think you give him some. I don't think 3 possessions is enough.
Okay. No, you're probably right about that.
You'd have to be into the second half, I think, before I was making that move. Unless it was just atrocious.
Like you're down, let's just say you're down 21-7 and you've got a possession to go into halftime.
No.
You wouldn't possession going into halftime? Okay.
No, unless he's like thrown 3 picks or something.
Okay.
He's missing open receiver after open receiver. I don't know. Who knows? Maybe Ole Miss's defensive front is just dominating your offensive line and Tyler's running for his life.
Yeah.
I would have to see how that would look.
Okay. There's just something there that tells me that the quarterback, him who starts, is not going to be him who finishes.
It's the last 5 years of Texas Tech football.
Yeah,
that's what the something is.
It tells us.
There's a good percentage of the time the starting quarterback doesn't finish the game.
Sure,
because we've had the luck of whatever the opposite of the Irish is.
Yeah. Right, especially with regard to quarterback play. I hope SaRodorick and Taj have big games. Not necessarily that they're running the ball on every down, but that they, especially for SaRodorick, I hope he's able to kind of showcase his talent a little bit. I feel like that he's showcased it, but wouldn't it be great if one of those guys had a 100-yard rushing day?
Yeah, that would be massive. If you're trying to win the game, that would be huge.
And be complementary to what you're doing. From a receiving standpoint, and I also feel like that your defense, because of all these guys coming back, that there's a lot of reason to kind of finish on a high note. So I feel like your defense is really going to stymie Ole Miss. I feel like that this defense is like, hey, we've proven that we can do things together here, and the 3-game win streak over Iowa State, and beating Texas Oklahoma the way that you did to finish the season. Kind of just feel like that there's mo going into this game for them as well.
Just in general, do you expect offenses to be better for bowl games or defenses?
Well, I think in general it's probably offenses.
Not just Texas Tech, but just in general for bowl games.
I think in general, to me, offenses. I think there's a tendency for the offenses to be a little bit better.
I think if it's a team or a side of the ball that's not showing up, it usually shows more on defense, in my opinion.
Just because of the effort that it takes?
I mean, offensive guys, I feel like they can turn it on a little bit more. Like, or maybe they're more prideful about, okay, well, I'm a wide receiver. I don't want to let a defensive back, I don't want the world to see him dominate me, so they bring it a little more.
I will say this for the Baylor defense on a goal line stand last night. They showed out. They had some pride there at the end of the game. They did not let Airforce in the end zone when it would have been very, very easy.
Getting your sports day started the right way. This is the Morning Drive Podcast from Double T 97.3, breaking down the biggest games.
If Texas Tech does not win the Big 12 football conference, who are you rooting for to win the conference if Tech does not win it this year?
Well, busting some chops along the way.
I hold back on sending you stuff. I mean, I'm very, very, very judicious.
We spend 3 hours a day, 5 days a week together. Why would we need to communicate during the weekends? Save it for the show.
We do. We save it for the show.
Tune into the Morning Drive live weekdays from 6 to 9 on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3. Jamie's question of the day on Double T 97.3 is presented by Bizarre Solutions. Call them today for a free cybersecurity audit.
7:32 this morning on the Morning Drive. I always kind of fall short of the expectations I think the people have of me.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well.
I think you give us pretty much every day what we expect.
Can you truly expect the unexpected, though?
I can. I can.
Because
I expect Chuck to chuck.
Chuck.
And he chucks.
All right, so what...
and then I chuckle.
And then you chuckle, and then you shake your head. I got Fink to shake his head yesterday. He kind of shook his head, kind of like you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Okay. Fink and I are similar creatures.
This is awkward. One of those awkward... it looked familiar to me. And like, oh, yeah, I've seen that look before. All right. What's your question of me, Jeff, and our fine listening audience?
All right, we're closing in on the end of the year, so I'm going to ask one of the end of the year type questions for you. It's a two-parter again.
Oh, man, I struggle with these things. Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, I'm looking for a game here. I want you to tell me your favorite game of 2022 for the Red Raiders. And I want you to tell me your worst game of 2022 for the Red Raiders. It can be in any sport that you want.
Okay. I think for me, the game that I enjoyed the most was the Lady Raider win at Texas this year. Just because of all the things that happened during that game, start of the third quarter with Vic Schaefer basically telling Coach Gerlich to get her rear end, and he did not say that, off of his scores table, how she didn't back down, how the team didn't back down, the enjoyment of beating a top 25 team on the road, and that one, and the last time they would play at the Irwin Center, and so that to me is my favorite game of the year. And maybe for football, I would have to say the Oklahoma. I know we only get one. You only get one. Okay, so I'll say the Texas women's game. Jeff, your favorite?
Least favorite.
Let me think about that while you talk about your favorite.
Friday night versus the Longhorns, stealing home to win it. It's the second time we've seen Tadlock do that. The broadcasters did the appropriate thing when that happened. They went nuts. It's against Texas. It's the ultimate suck it move of stealing home to win the game. And it's against the Longhorns, which I personally enjoy to tell them to suck it whenever I get the opportunity to. And Tadlock helped us do that this year.
Man, for the disappointing game, it's really hard because your men's basketball team went 18-0 at home. So it's like, okay, you didn't walk out of United Supermarkets Arena at all in 2022 with a loss.
Yeah, it didn't have to be a home game.
Well, I know. I was just trying to think of a game that I was at.
It doesn't have to be about you.
Well, no, but I mean, that's what I was just trying to think.
Disappointing game, Duke, NCAA tournament.
Okay, man, that's the one you could have won, no doubt. For me personally, Jeff stole my answer from the best one of the season. Never seen in my life a walk-off steal of home. So that to me, and you did it against your rival. That's pretty cool. So that would be my least favorite moment by far. Okay, but since Jeff took mine, I'll go with something different.
Okay.
The win against Chris Beard. Okay, in Lubbock. All right, it was a crazy fun night.
It was, no doubt.
The student section was phenomenal. Our team, played great, especially in the second half. And again, I noticed I didn't even say your win against Texas at home. I said your win against Chris Beard at home.
Yeah.
That was it for me for number 2 on my list since Jeff took my first one. My least favorite moment was the Saturday game and at TCU in baseball. That would have been April 16th. Remember you played Thursday, Friday, Saturday that week.
Yeah.
Just realizing you just got swept against the team that you hate so much and a fan base that you hate so much. And I just remember that feeling of, because that just hasn't happened to the Red Raiders much in the Tadlock era. And I just remember walking out of there going, wow, this is what it feels like for other teams against us. Just like this doesn't happen. And it was miserable. That was a bad weekend.
I really just trying to think of a game that I was just really very, very disappointed in. I guess the Duke game would be it.
Kansas State in football.
You
can say that. You're allowed.
No, I know. I was just trying to think again. I was just trying to think of something where I was like just thoroughly disgusted.
I think it's a compliment. No, I mean, well, you can say that. I don't think I've been thoroughly disgusted.
No, but
all year long over a game, and that's a compliment to the football program because last year I was thoroughly disgusted a few times.
Yeah, I mean,
thoroughly like I'm out. Okay, well, I'll just keep my mouth shut on that. Go ahead.
No, I think you're right. I mean, there were times I was just like, man, just crushed walking out of that stadium in 2021, for some football games.
And it wasn't that way at all this year.
No.
Even though, you were disappointed that you couldn't finish it off against Kansas State. You knew they were a good team. Same thing at Oklahoma State. Same thing at TCU. I guess the one time that you were just like, man, was Baylor here at home.
Right. That was disappointing.
But even then, you got off to a terrible start, and all of a sudden in the third quarter, you're down by 7.
Yeah.
You feel like, okay, man, we've been terrible, but our guys keep battling. And that's the thing about this football team this year. It never gave you the feeling of our guys have quit or given up or whatever, or any of that. I think early on in the Oklahoma game, I was thinking to myself, okay, this looks like the first time where they just were, you know what, we got our 6 wins, we're going to a bowl, it doesn't matter. And then here they come. And so that's been great for football this year. Something that I have absolutely loved, and I, can't say enough for Coach McGuire and his staff. I mean, these guys show up every time.
I would, I have one more thought on that. We'll get to that here in just a second. But I think it is a compliment to your football program and, men's basketball especially too, that of how you've performed with regard to the team this year. And just how it all ended up.
You're listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3, recapping the night that was in the world of sports.
A little bit later on tonight, we'll have the Astros and the Diamondbacks. That'll be at 8. And then the Rangers playing at Seattle tonight.
And also bringing some humor to your day.
Was it pretty big?
Yeah. I mean,
it's impressive?
Yeah.
Was it fascinating?
I thought it was fascinating. It kind of smelled, but I mean.
Hear the show live weekday mornings at 6 on Double T 97.3 or on the Double T 97.3 mobile app.
Here on the Morning Drive. Nice to have you with us this morning on Lubbock Sports Station, Double T 97.3 and Double T 97.3.com with Jamie Lent and Jeff McGuire. I'm Chuck Heinz. How could you not like Rudolph? You kind of feel like Rudolph as a reindeer is a player that you thought maybe had some promise, but then didn't fulfill, but then blossomed, bloomed, and became an everyday, steady Eddie, player that you could really rely on.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And that, basically, when given the opportunity, as, we all have in life sometimes, it may not be on the athletic field, it may be personally or business or, professionally, or just, where there's those times when, basically the ball is handed to you and you hit it out of the park, per se, and then your life kind of goes in a different direction.
Okay.
So that's
well, I will say about Rudolph is it's the first, I think the only Christmas show that made me cry all the time when I was a kid. I felt so bad for Rudolph.
Yeah.
I didn't handle it well.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Let's see here.
I haven't seen it in a few years. I honestly don't know if I would cry now or not.
Well, I always kind of got scared when the abominable snowman appeared. When he was trying to eat, Rudolph and his friends, the misfit, the toys and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And I just
kind of what we are. This show here is the Island of Misfit Toys.
We are
Island of Misfit Radio hosts.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Three of us.
We'll never make it to Tech Talk Land.
No, it's just I don't know. Unless your nose starts glowing. And maybe AD would let us on.
Yeah, he's the comet of our group here. He's big, bold, big antlers, all those kinds of things. Let's see here. The Yates Flooring Center chat line is open as we come to you from the First United Bank studio. Benchmark hotline is open as well. We were asking earlier, and we're going to get to the expectations of hoops here in just a second. We just want to get caught up on the chat line. Where Jamie asked, his question of the day was, biggest, your win you liked the most and the loss you hated the most, basically, or your biggest thrill, biggest disappointment. Chuck falling asleep on the air was a highlight. I think that's been overplayed.
Unfortunately, that was also not this year.
Yeah, I don't think it was this year.
Yeah.
But it was not overplayed.
Overstated.
Overplayed?
You finally admitted that you fell asleep on the air this year.
Just nodded for just a second. That
is, in fact, still.
You were asleep until I said, "Hey, Chuck." Then you popped your head up.
I popped my head up.
Okay.
GMA says the basketball win versus UT in Austin and the football loss against Baylor. I came up with my one that was my biggest disappointment. I told you that the high for me was the Lady Raiders winning in Austin. The low for me was the following Saturday, losing at home to Oklahoma State, because you just couldn't step and repeat. You beat a team that you shouldn't have beaten in a number 9 team in the country, but you couldn't beat a team at home that you should have beaten. And that happened a couple of times this year. In terms of where you won at Oklahoma and then you followed it up with a loss. So that
you didn't stack success.
Did not stack success. And I'll tell you a win that I really enjoyed for the Red Raiders, because I was in the arena and I had not been to a game at the Sprint Center at the Big 12 Championships. I was at the game when Tech beat Iowa State 72-41, and it was a laugher. I mean, there wasn't any drama in it, but Iowa State fans have been over the years, and their proximity to Kansas City, much like KU and K-State, it's not the same as KU and K-State by any stretch of the imagination, but the Iowa State people have always had tremendous respect for how they've come in and taken over arenas over the years, especially at the Big 12 tournament. And to see them get up and leave was that was pretty satisfying. Just the way that Texas Tech dominated that game that night. So that was also a highlight for me. Somebody says this: agree the walk-off against Texas. Disappointment was football at TCU. We had them and let it slip away. Jeff and Keller, No one is picking versus UT in basketball. No, some did. Some did. Jeff did. Jamie picked the.
Jamie did.
Yes, it was number 2 on.
It was
my
number
list.
2 on his list behind the Tech stealing of home.
The one at home meant more to me than the one on the road.
Yeah.
The basketball game.
Yeah.
It is kind of fun to think about. Some baseball, you won 2 out of 3, you won the series.
Yeah.
Basketball season, you swept them.
Mm-hmm.
Football season.
Technically, you won 3 out of 4 when you factor in the women.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Football, you took care of business.
Yeah.
We had a good year against the Horns.
Right, we did.
It's kind of nice.
we sure did.
2022 was good for those of us who like to put our horns down.
Yeah, no.
Actually, I've never done that in my life, but but I hate the Horns.
Yeah.
But I've never done horns down.
Yeah. I got to admit, I did horns down at their place. Thinking I did after the game.
Is that when you got up when there was about to be a fight and you ran over to the scores table and you were like gonna fight Big Schaefer?
I wasn't fighting him. I just was interested in what was going on.
You looked like you were ready to have a throwdown with the hoedown.
He had Coach Gerlich's back. He was ready.
I did. We get this.
That was maybe a highlight for me with how many people were sending me the video or screenshots of Chuck in the background looking like he was about to fight Vic Schaefer. What is this crazy old man doing?
I know. He's a crazy old man, right? Let's see. Somebody said 63-yard field goal is a high. Well, that was 2021.
Yep.
The high for me was the back-to-back walk-offs against UT in baseball, and the worst is the KSU football game. This year, if we could have hit that field goal, what could have been, right? Winning against Gonzaga in our national championship year after few said all we do is win at Gonzaga. Well, okay. Chuck's nose is more likely to grow than glow. Wow.
Chuck is a lot of things. He's not Pinocchio.
Racer26 says this: Merry Christmas to all and safe travels to everyone from Racer26. All right.
You've been listening to the Morning Drive podcast from Double T 97.3. For more from Lubbock Sports Station, go to doublet973.com.